Well, afternoon boys and girls, I hope you're well. This is just a little bit of an update of what I'm doing with the prawn pots. As you can see, these are the plastic containers I bought to make the prawn pots with. They're 400mm long, 300mm wide, and I think they're about 12.50 deep. I bought them second hand, but they're new. I think they work about £2 each plus delivery, so they weren't a lot of money. The thing I liked about them is there's tons of holes for ventilation and let water flow, because the biggest thing around here, the problem is you get a bit of mud, so you want plenty of water flow to keep the mud out, and also we get a lot of weed, so you don't want big hole entrances what let the weed in. Obviously standard pots, they're like a tube in the end, and they've got like 1.25 inch hole in the end. These are the entrances for the standard prawn pots you get. Basically one of these on each end. See there, taper down. It's like 1.25 inch hole, one on each end, tubular mesh in the middle. Yeah, they work great in places with not that much tide, like on the south coast, but they ain't no good for here. Basically, one thing is, you get a load of weed here, so that 1.25 inch hole fill up with weed instantly, because obviously you got your bridle on the end and weed. The tide push it and that fill that hole up with weed in seconds, so that's a waste of time. Another thing, them little pots don't weigh a lot. There's hardly any weight in them really, only a few pound of weight, and they, with the tide here, they roll up and ball up, the anchors come together and you get a big heap. They're a waste of time here. On the south coast there's not so much tide, they're brilliant, but here they ain't no good, so that's why I got to design something from scratch. Well, the first thing I done was made up some weights for them. You can see here, that's just a plastic fish sheet. You put them on top of boxes of fish to stop them from drying out. Well, I just laid that in the bottom there to start with, and I weighed about 5.5 kilo of sand and ballast. Then I put some dry cement in it, and also added water and mixed it up and poured it in. I put a load of fibres in the concrete, so obviously they might crack and that sort of thing, but when you put them nylon, well I think they're polypropylene fibres, when you mix all them in, if it ever do crack, that hold together with all the little fibres, all like tiny little bits of string. Obviously I poured it in there, and that weighed about 7 kilo, so that should be more than enough. Then, so I don't put the plastic in the sea, you can see I took the plastic off it. They don't actually stay in there, you can flip them out. You can see there I just tipped it out and the concrete's fell out. And you get the plastic, look, that just all pull off. So we're not putting that in the sea, that's going to all go in the dustbin. I know they're loose from them, but I'm probably just going to get some grip fill and glue them in them. Or I could have put twine and wire through the bottom, and as I poured it, that it gripped on the twine and wire. I should have done that really, I suppose, but I didn't, and that's what it is. So I'm probably just put a bit of grip fill or something on there and glue that in the bottom. Obviously I've got to put an entrance one end to let the prawns in, and there's several different variants of doing it. I thought long and hard really, and I have come up with a bit of a plan. So the first few I'm going to make this way and see how it fish, and if they don't fish or do fish, then I can then adapt the rest of the suit. Obviously the concrete in the bottom is perfect on every single one, so I mixed up exactly the same weight every time. So I'm just going to measure that from the bottom using the trusty rule. That's 3 inch roughly. I will say rule and not ruler, because when I was an apprentice, the old boys, if I said ruler, they'd clip me around the head and say rulers run countries. You mean a rule. So that's 3 inch on there roughly. Go to the end of the tub, 3 inch roughly there, and 3 inch is roughly there. Ain't no engineering project, ain't got to be perfect. So what I'll just do is put that along there and do a rough line. Easy peasy. So what I'll do is I want to cut out that area. That'll be part of the entrance. Obviously you look at the size of that, that's about 1.75 inches, because I don't want to catch whelks. The problem around here, there's plenty of whelks about, and and I don't want to catch whelks. So obviously I can't have solid plastic because the whelks climb up the plastic, but they won't climb up mesh so much. But I still want to catch hermit, so that gap there at the bottom, nearly 2 inches, that's big enough for hermits to get up. Well, the first thing I've done is just use a trusty hole saw, as in just to drill 2 holes, because obviously you can then cut it out with the jigsaw and you don't get no corners, because corners what crack in plastic. So if you keep all the holes round or rounded edges, they tend not to crack so much. And then I got the trusty jigsaw and cut an oval hole out. Easy peasy. I haven't showed you any drillings because I don't know what's gone on, but I seem to get attacked by the health and safety police. If I don't have a life jacket on for 3 seconds, everyone's messaging about that, and so I thought, yeah, it's not worth it. So that's the bottom. But I have allowed, that's a big hole there, and obviously the concrete come up to here, but I have allowed that to sink in the mud a bit. If that half closes up, that doesn't bother me, because I'm going to do another entrance in the top as well, on the top bit. Now on the top section, and I marked out to drill some more holes with a hole saw. Obviously I don't want a massive great hole, because there's a lot of weed will push in it and block all the holes up, but if there are any individual holes, obviously there's sections in between what will stop the weed from going into the pot. Well, that's the inlets all drilled for the entrances. If you look here, that's where the concrete is, but it's a bit of a muddy area where I'm shooting them, so I gather for the first day or so I'll get hermits go through there, that sort of thing, and day or two I'll gather that probably sink in the mud, and sort of that'll block them entrances up. But prawns can still get through the top entrances. If you look at prawns and that sort of thing, a lot of the time they land on top and they crawl about, they walk and crawl about more than you think. And obviously with all these ledges they can crawl on these. This is only a prototype, whether that work who knows, but that's my thinking theory. First day or two go through there, and then if that get covered up at all by weed, blocked up, they can still go through the higher entrances. And obviously with them bits in between, if weed hit this, that shouldn't get stuck on them, that should stick on the surface and not go in, not block the hole up. Tide change and it all flush out again. Obviously you've got a big hole, that can go right in there and get stuck, but these ones, that shouldn't, hopefully. That's the theory behind it, I'm sticking to it. And the next stage is just to do the inside entrance, obviously, because you want some sort of wall coming up here so they can climb up the wall, fall into the main chamber of the pot and can't get out very easily. Well, I got some of this 10mm heavy duty mesh. That's very good quality stuff. It's what they use on the old poly pots and that sort of thing, the French style pots. That's ever so tough, so I'm probably going to make an entrance wall coming up at an angle like that sort of thing. Obviously not quite as long, but that's the theory behind it. And I'll have a little play, trial and error, and go from there. So now I just got to do the internal entrance, then put a bridle on it and put a door on the top and that sort of thing, and I should be there. I'm just going to do a few as a trial, just to see how they fish, because we got started getting 1 or 2 prawns, but we don't seem to get many prawns here till the water start cooling down. Well, I think we start getting actually a few prawns in like late August here, and they go through the winter. So we'll see how they go. Do a little trial. Obviously the rest of it I'll do on another video. Okay, thanks for watching. Catch you later, boys and girls. Bye.